Today on Heavy Metal Frequency, I'm reviewing Scarve, the Undercurrent. This is the final Scarve album, ATM, and it is the last one with their death metal vocalist who left to be for his other project, Phasm, Pierrick Valence, whatever. And so their other vocalist, Lawrence McCrory, was a session vocalist. He was also the vocalist for the Meladeth band Darkane, and he became a permanent vocalist on this, and they're on extended hiatus for a while. So the Undercurrent is less melodic, which is interesting because if you wiki this album, it's listed as sort of a Meladeth album, and that's very interesting to me because I feel like this is more industrial, like industrial tech death, like the first album, but I feel like the ambient aspects of Irradiant are juxtaposed for dark ambient. This is a darker, more dissonant album, and it has some really interesting elements on it, like Endangered and Senseless. The first and third tracks both rely heavily on, like, I feel like they're military snare patterns. It's very like drum corps snare patterns, and it's really interesting that they space those that closely together. There's some spoken word aspects on this. This has a remake of a song called one of their other albums called Alteration, and it's luminiferous, and so it's a very interesting album. There's some experimental aspects. There's some, you could say, a few scraps of Memories has like a spoken word-esque, if you want to say that, it has a poetic aspect to it with the dark ambient aspects, which was, they kind of touched on that with the song Perfect Disaster on Irradiant, and this takes that a little bit further. The death metal vocals still have like an old school Cookie Monster aspect to them, I feel like, and then the cleans on this are a little bit, I'm trying to figure out how to put this, they're a little bit purer. They have a little bit more, it's like there's less timbre on them, and it's really, really cool. And they cut a little bit better than Williams' vocals from the album Irradiant. And so there's all kinds of really cool stuff on here. There's some atonal guitar solos, kind of maybe slightly Frederick Thorndahl-esque. They don't rely quite as much on the wah ambience as they did on Irradiant, but it's still there. There are these little melodic touches every now and then on the album. And it's really, really cool. I would highly recommend you pick up a copy of this. I loved everything on here. Rebirth is really, really catchy despite not being, the second to last track is really, really catchy despite not being all that melodic. I guess the groove elements on it are really catchy. It's really cool. And I really like the lyrics, and that's the poetry, spoken word aspects are really interesting on some of the tracks, and like a few scraps of Memories, and there's all kinds of really cool stuff on here. There's some Meshuggah-esque snare patterns on here, like their drummer Thomas would do. That's where it's like the snare is the ride hi-hat patterns are juxtaposed for a snare pattern. And it's really cool. Just these really neat little experimental nuances here and there that are really, 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 really cool. And the drumming really carries a lot of this, like with a lot of extreme metal bands in general. The drumming and the vocals carry a lot of it, but with this more so, it's very drumming forward, which is a really weird thing to say, but still. And so I love this. I highly suggest you pick up a copy. And next, I'm pretty sure I'm moving on to Dragon Lord. Thank you.